Hello, everyone. This is Erica Myers for Crisis Communications. Our topic today is Airbnb versus COVID-19. This is a current and ongoing crisis for the world. However, we will look at how Airbnb was affected and has managed during this crisis. Some of the content I will be going over will include how Airbnb works, some basic information about the coronavirus, how the virus has affected Airbnb, how Airbnb responds to COVID-19, and how the hosts and guests of Airbnb rentals are doing during this crisis. First, a little about Airbnb and how it exactly works. Members will register for the service. Those members wanting to rent out property will create a listing. Those wanting to rent property will browse and choose one to rent. On the back end, Airbnb does the brokering, collecting of payments, taking their share, and acting as customer support for both parties. In addition, Airbnb also establishes guidelines for both parties. As for the coronavirus, I will do a brief timeline. In December of 2019, the CDC received word from the Wuhan Institute of Virology about a mysterious respiratory illness that they believed to be some type of pneumonia. Between then and now, misinformation happened and policies were initiated to protect citizens. Some policies were initiated too late. It started off with a 14-day quarantine, performing crowd control by having crowds no more than 10 persons, and graduated into a partial shutdown that only allowed access to essential services. Naturally, travel was restricted, and it was those travel restrictions that hit Airbnb the hardest. How did COVID-19 affect Airbnb? With the travel restrictions, users had to cancel reservations which were already into the system. This took revenue away from hosts as well as Airbnb themselves, since they get a percentage commission from those reservations. Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky reported an 80% loss of business. Airbnb was officially in a free fall from the pandemic. Airbnb had to respond swiftly to the effects of the pandemic and the voices of angry hosts who were losing money due to the travel restrictions. They updated the policies, improved the cancellation policy for guests, gave a percentage of a fund to assist hosts financially, enacted a cleaning initiative for hosts, and networked with local businesses and governments for local activities. With these policies in place, some reservations were starting to return. These policy changes also meant a change for the hosts. There would be no more cozy brief listings, no more immediate back-to-back reservations. They would have to advertise their cleanliness and sanitation, and also had to wait up to 72 hours before the next guest could arrive. Listings began to reiterate their sanitation processes and mention that they were able to control COVID-19 exposure. Some hosts even invited guests to bring their own cleaning supplies to feel more comfortable about the sanitation. Airbnb guests were returning. However, their reservations took a turn away from big crowded cities and stuffy suburbs. Rural listings were thriving. Those rural locations had activities without huge crowds and provided an intimate setting for travelers once the U.S. restrictions were lifted. Now, international Airbnb hosts are still feeling the effects since international travel is very restricted. Some countries have banned U.S. travelers because of the handling of the pandemic in the States. It was the quick adaptation of crisis management of Airbnb which helped save the company from what could have been a bursting bubble. I would like to thank you for listening to my presentation. Should you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at the below information or follow me on social media.